This is an introduction to doing legal research, provided by the Community Legal Education Association. This is general information only, not specific advice. For legal advice on your specific situation, talk to a lawyer. Legal research is often the most important part of any legal case. Despite what movies and television show, most of what lawyers do is research and writing. If you are planning on representing yourself on a legal matter, it is important you know how to do your own legal research. Doing legal research will help you know what laws apply to your particular situation, know what those laws mean, know how judges have interpreted the laws, and find cases that will help make your argument stronger. When doing legal research, it is important to understand how the legal system works. There is a video called Introduction to the Legal System available for free on CLIA's website, communitylegal.mb.ca, under the Videos tab. It explains how laws become laws, the structure of the Canadian court system, what precedent is, and how appeals work. If you are not already familiar with the legal system, we recommend you pause here and watch that video now. It will help you better understand the rest of this presentation. Here are some general tips to keep in mind when doing your own legal research. Number 1. Know what the issues are in your case and stay focused on them. Many disputes only contain one or two legal issues. Exploring issues that are not relevant to your case will be a waste of your time and can also distract you from making the points you actually need to make. However, other disputes may involve many issues, or may involve issues that are more complex or hard to understand without a legal background. If you find you are having trouble understanding your legal issues, you may want to find a lawyer to assist you rather than doing the research yourself. Number 2. Know which laws apply to your case and know what those laws say. For example, if you have an employment issue, it is important to know which piece of legislation governs your type of employment and what that legislation specifically says about your issue. If you make your case based on the wrong legislation, you will not be successful. Number 3. Look at other cases to see how judges have interpreted the law. Try to find cases that deal with your specific issue, with facts as close as possible to the facts in your case. Finding cases with facts very similar to yours will help you learn how judges have ruled on your issue in the past, and will help you discover what areas of your case might need to be stronger. Finding cases that are not very similar to yours will allow the opposing party to argue that the ruling should not apply to your case. Number 4. Find rulings from higher courts first. Higher court rulings are binding on lower courts in the same province. Cases from the Supreme Court of Canada and the Manitoba Court of Appeal are more persuasive than rulings from the Court of Queen's Bench or Provincial Court. If you need a reminder of the structure of Canada's court system, you can find a diagram in CLIA's Introduction to the Legal System video mentioned earlier. You should also try to find cases in your own province, since some areas of the law are different from province to province. Number 5. Find the newest rulings you can. Laws can change over time, and so can the ways judges interpret laws. Finding more recent cases will make it more likely that the judge's ruling represents the current state of the law. However, you should also be careful with very new rulings from lower courts, because they might be in the process of being appealed. Number 6. Look at the cases cited in other rulings. Court decisions contain citations to other cases that deal with relevant issues. If you are reading through a court decision and the judge cites a case to demonstrate a point that is also relevant to your case, you may want to find the cited case and read through it to see if there is anything else that could help your argument. Some court decisions you find that may seem helpful to your case may not actually be relevant. For example, the case may have similar facts but is referring to a different law. The case may be from a different province that does not handle your legal issue in the same way, or the ruling in the case may no longer apply. There are a number of reasons a judge's ruling in a case may no longer apply. For example, the case might have been overturned by a higher court on appeal. The case may have been overruled or clarified by a more recent decision from the same court, or the case may have been made irrelevant by laws that have been passed since the decision. One of the best resources for doing your own legal research is the Canadian Legal Information Institute, or CanLII. You can access CanLII by going to canlii.org. That's CanLII.org. CanLII contains a search engine that lets you search through legislation and decisions from courts and tribunals all over the country. While it does provide access to many documents, you should be aware that it does not provide access to every court decision or piece of legislation. Some research may require you to consult with other sources, like a law library. The rest of this presentation will show you how to use some of CanLII's basic features. On the CanLII homepage, you will see 3 text search bars. The top bar is for searching the entire text of a document. This is probably the search bar you will use most often, because it will give you the broadest search results. It is used to search the entire body of documents for words or phrases. For example, if you are looking for cases that talk about child support, you could type that into this bar. We will cover some tips about searching this way later on. The second search bar is where you can search if you know all or part of the name or citation of a particular case or document. Searching with this bar instead of the top search bar will only search titles rather than the body of text, so it will narrow down your results significantly. The third search bar will search only the citations within a document. This is a good way to search if you have found a court decision that looks helpful to your case, and you want to see how other cases have referred to it. You can also search the names of laws in this search bar to find cases and laws that have referred to it. You can also use multiple search bars at the same time to further narrow down your results. Now let's go through some examples of how to use these different search bars. Let's say you are looking for cases about child support. You could start by simply typing child support into the top search bar. However, as you can see, this leads to over 147,000 results, far too many to read through. Above the search results, you can see some tabs that let you filter your search by only showing you cases, legislation, or commentary that includes your search term. Commentary would include things like articles in legal journals that people have written about your search term. As you can see here, even narrowing down the results in this way for this search would still leave you with thousands of results. Underneath these tabs, you can filter your results by jurisdiction by clicking on the drop-down menu and selecting which provinces you would like to see results for. Beside each jurisdiction, you can see how many results you will get for each. It is a good idea to look for sources in your own province first before looking at other jurisdictions. Let's narrow down the results to just those from Manitoba. When we check the Manitoba box, we can narrow it down to a little over 4,000 cases. If we click on the Cases tab, we are given some more filtering options. We can filter by court or tribunal, or we can filter by date. Under the All Courts and Tribunals tab, you can see the options to filter results by the different tribunals and courts in the province. Because we are looking for cases about child support, the tribunals probably won't help us very much, as child support is decided by the court. So let's just look at cases from the Court of Appeal, the highest court in the province. Remember that it is usually a good idea to start your research by looking at decisions from higher courts first. When we click on the Any Date tab, we can also choose how recent we want the results to be. You can select one of the preset date ranges from this menu, or you can manually enter dates to create a date range. You can see here that if we narrow it to cases from the last year, we will be left with only 30 results, a much more manageable number. You can also see there is an option above your results to include decisions from the Supreme Court of Canada. Because it is the highest court in Canada, decisions from the Supreme Court can be very helpful to your case. However, you should be careful when reading these decisions, since the rulings may apply to laws that don't exist in your province. Another great way to narrow down your search results is to pick better search terms. Searching for basic terms without adding other information will give you too many results, as we have just seen. You will have more success in your searches if you know the legal terms that apply to your case. For example, let's say your employer cut your hours and essentially forced you to quit, and you want to find cases about this. You will probably have a very hard time searching for cases unless you know that the legal term for this is constructive dismissal. A good place to find out specific legal terms is by looking at the legislation that governs your issue to see what it is called there. It is also important for you to know how to use search operators. Search operators are commands that a search engine follows to narrow down or expand your results in different ways. For example, if we had searched for child support in quotation marks instead of without quotation marks, our starting point would have been about 41,000 results instead of 147,000. This is because quotation marks let you search for an exact phrase instead of searching for each word individually. Many search engines use different search operators, so it is important to know which operators you should be using. On CanLII, you can find a list of operators by clicking Search Help at the bottom of the homepage. Here is a list of CanLII's search operators. An asterisk at the end of a part of a word can be used to search for variations of a word. In our example, the search would return results for any words starting with these letters. For example, construct, construction, constructed, construed, and so on. Quotation marks can be used to search a phrase. Or, in all capitals, can be used to search either of two terms, and not, in all capitals, can be used to search text that includes one word but not the word immediately following it. There are also operators that let you search for words within a certain distance from each other or within the same sentence or paragraph. If you know the name of a document or case, you can use CanLII's second search bar to search titles only. Let's say we know we are looking for a case called R v. Smith. Remember to use quotation marks to search only cases called R v. Smith and not just cases including the name Smith and the letter R. The letter R represents the crown. When we start typing, a drop-down menu will appear with some popular cases by that name. If you don't see what you are looking for, you can hit Enter for a full list of matching documents. Not surprisingly, there are still over 600 cases that come up with the name R v. Smith, so we will have to narrow it down. One option is to filter results as we did before by selecting the jurisdiction or selecting an appeals court, tribunal, or a date range. However, you can also filter your results if you know all or part of the case's citation or the court it appeared in. Legal citations are identifiers for court decisions and laws. They allow us to tell the difference between cases or statutes with similar names. Case citations also contain information like year, level of court, province, and the reporter of the case. There are a few different citation styles for court decisions, but on CanLII you will usually see either a CanLII citation, a neutral citation, or both together. A CanLII citation will have the name of the case, followed by the year of the decision, the reporter, in this case CanLII, and a number called a pinpoint, which is a sequential number used to help identify the decision. In printed collections of cases, the pinpoint number is often the page number. In parentheses, there will also be the province and the level of court. In this example, we can see the case is from 1979 and comes from the Saskatchewan Court of Appeal. A neutral citation will have the name of the case, the year, the province and level of court, and a pinpoint number indicating the order in which the decision was released. In this example, we can tell that this case was the 25th decision released by the Ontario Court of Appeal in 2016. Here are some common abbreviations used in case citations. Each province and territory has a two-letter abbreviation, although Newfoundland sometimes uses NF and sometimes NL. The federal court uses FCC or FCA for cases at the Federal Court of Appeal. The Supreme Court uses SCC. Things get a little trickier for the different levels of court. At the provincial court level, Ontario and Nunavut use CJ for Court of Justice, Northwest Territories and Yukon use TC for Territorial Court, and all other provinces use PC for Provincial Court. At the Superior Court level, Alberta, Manitoba, New Brunswick, and Saskatchewan use QB for Queen's Bench. In some older cases, you might also see KB for King's Bench. Because Nunavut has just one court at the provincial and superior levels, it uses CJ. All other provinces and territories use SC, which stands for either Supreme Court or Superior Court. All courts at the Provincial Court of Appeal level use the abbreviation CA. There are also several other abbreviations for tribunals and specific divisions of these courts. For example, LB for a decision from a labor board. Now that we know the abbreviations found in citations, we can use these to help narrow down our search results. For example, if we know that the R.V. Smith we are looking for was a case from Manitoba's Court of Queen's Bench, we could type MBQB after the case name. When we do this, our results are narrowed down to only 3 cases. You can also use CanLII to find legislation. For example, if we wanted to find Manitoba legislation about the police, a good place to start might be to search the word police in the title search bar, then filtering by legislation and Manitoba jurisdiction. When searching for legislation on CanLII, you should also be aware that some of CanLII's search results may be legislation that has been repealed or replaced by other legislation. You can also find commentary on certain cases or topics by selecting the Commentary tab after you do a search. Some of the commentary you might find includes academic articles written by legal scholars and summaries of cases written by lawyers. One very useful resource for commentary is CanLII Connects. CanLII Connects features a number of case summaries and discussion articles written by lawyers. These summaries and articles are often much easier to read than court decisions because they are short and concise and explain things in plain language. You can filter for only CanLII Connects results by selecting the Commentary tab, opening the drop-down menu under All Contents, and selecting the box beside CanLII Connects. You can also access CanLII Connects directly from the homepage of CanLII by clicking on the CanLII Connects link under the Commentary heading. On the CanLII Connects homepage, you can click Search on the top right corner to view 3 search bars where you can search by document text, author or publisher, or case name or citation. You can use the same search operators as CanLII to narrow your results. When you search in CanLII Connects, you will see a bar on the right side that allows you to filter your results by case summaries or commentary, jurisdiction, author, and publisher, as well as how you want your results sorted. For more information, visit CLIA's website at communitylegal.mb.ca or call the Law Phone-In and Lawyer Referral Program at 204-943-2305 in Winnipeg or 1-800-262-8800 toll-free outside Winnipeg.